Okay, guys, number 10 in the review says solve, give your answer to the nearest tenth. Now, this is definitely a quadratic. The first thing that, when I want to solve a quadratic, the first thing that I would look for is whether or not I can factor it. Because if I can factor it, that makes it a lot faster. Okay? But looking at negative 1, okay, negative 1, the factors of negative 1 are 1 and negative 1. Okay? These two things multiply to give me negative 1, but they do not add to give me negative 3. Okay? So there's no way to factor this thing. It's prime. I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula. Okay? So there you go. I know that a is equal to 1. A is the number in front of k squared. B is equal to negative 3. And C is equal to negative 1. And I also know that the quadratic formula is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Thank you very much, AC guys. Now, Kyle knows that I like to put parentheses there to hold a spot for all my numbers before I plug them in. And I just write it like this. So I'll have little boxes that I can plug my numbers in. All right. So Jordan, what should I put here? Negative 3. Good job. Jordan, what should I put here? Negative 3. Good. Chris, what should I put here? 1 here. And Chris? 1 here also. And then this last one here, Mark, where should I put here? Negative 1. Okay. Now, guys, as I start to simplify this, I'm going to get negative 3 is positive 3 plus or minus the square root of 9. And since there are two negatives, I know it's going to be plus 4 all over 2. Okay, so this is getting simpler. 3 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. Now, guys, I'm going to go back up and look at my problem here, and I'm going to see that it asks me to give my answer to the nearest tenth. So it wants me to use a calculator and approximate what these values are. Now, you know that I've written this sort of in one whole thing, but it's really two separate numbers. It's 3 plus, I'm sorry, let me rewrite that. 3 plus root 13 over 2. And then 3 minus root 13 over 2. Now, guys, the first thing I always do with these problems, I find out what the square root, the value of that is. And I'm not going to round this at all. I'm just going to write what the calculator gives me. I mean, it has to round it some, but I'm going to write all those digits. 3 plus 3.605551275 all over 2. This is, of course, 3 minus 3.605551275 all over 2. Okay. Now, let's see how much of I can do in my head. This is going to be 6.605551275 all over 2. And this is going to be minus 0.605551275 all over 2. Okay, now I just have some division to do. All right. So I'm going to divide 6.6, blah, 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 all that stuff by 2. And I'm going to get 3.3 when I round to the nearest tenth. But it gave me 3.302775638. And they said round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to get 3.3. All right. Let me do this. Negative 6 point blah, blah, blah divided by 2 is going to give me 0.302775638, round to the nearest tenth, negative 0.3. All right? So, x can equal 3.3 and negative 0.3. All right? Well done, guys, and I'll see you at the next example, which is number 11.